Wow. Okay, so today we're diving into some seriously intense poetry.
Yeah, definitely not lighthearted reading material, this one.
Mes amis abandonnés.
To my abandoned friends.
Yeah, it just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? But seriously though, even just the title, it's heavy, right? We're looking at two versions of this poem and just the emotion just jumps right out at you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can just feel that sense of isolation, that feeling of being completely alone.
Yeah, and it's so raw and honest, it's almost hard to read.
It really gets under your skin.
It does. It's like the speaker saying, look, unless you've lived through this, you can't possibly understand.
And that's a really interesting point because even though they feel so alone, they also seem to recognize that empathy has its limits. There's that line, those who read can cry, those who go through it can feel it.
Right, like you can sympathize, you can feel bad for someone, but actually experiencing that pain, that's something else entirely.
Exactly. It's recognizing the difference between intellectual understanding and really feeling it in your bones.
And speaking of feeling it in your bones, let's talk about the way the speaker talks about their parents. Degenerate parents seeking a clear conscience in an embrace. It's harsh.
It really is. And that language just screams abandonment, like
Rough.
some deep-seated betrayal.
Yeah, like a wound that just won't heal. Makes you wonder what happened to create that level of resentment.
It does make you think, doesn't it? What could possibly lead to that kind of bitterness?
And then, it's like that line just punches you in the gut. There are people everyone loves, there are people everyone hates. Like, where does that leave the speaker?
Completely isolated,
Alone.
totally alone.
Yeah.
On their own, it's like they don't even belong in that simple division of loved and hated.
And that sense of being trapped, of seeing no way out. It's like looking at that bridge in the poem. Speaking of which, I think it's time we address that big metaphorical elephant, or should I say bridge, in the room.
Yeah, that's a really striking image.
Yeah.
The poem describes this grand bridge connecting two sides of a polluted river.
Okay, so definitely not the most inviting image.
Right. So you have this bridge, and it represents a choice.
Hmm.
And stay in this toxic situation or risk everything to escape to the other side.
Except there's that one line that just, I don't know, just makes my stomach drop every time I read it. It's the same on both sides. So, like, what even is escape then?
Right. If it's the same on both sides, does it even matter which side you're on? It really throws that whole idea of escape into question.
It makes it feel so hopeless.
Yeah, it adds this whole other level of tragedy. It's not just about being trapped, it's about knowing there's no real escape from it.
Yeah, there's this whole section in the longer version of the poem that I think adds even more to this. It talks about being trapped by comparing it to guarding a prisoner, and then it says he himself is a prisoner. Powerful.
It really makes you think about those roles,
Yeah.
you know? Like even the person who seems to have all the power, the guard in this case, they're still confined, still a
So
prisoner.
it's like it's saying everyone's trapped in some way.
Exactly. And it kind of makes you think about those degenerate parents, right?
Hmm.
Maybe they're not just these awful people. Maybe they're trapped in their own way too.
Whoa. Yeah, so maybe they couldn't give the speaker what they needed because they themselves were prisoners of their own circumstances. It's like this cycle of confinement.
That's exactly what it made me think of, this vicious cycle, and it makes the whole situation so much more tragic.
So we've got all this going on. Raw emotion, feeling trapped, impossible choices. What do you think? What are these poems trying to tell us?
I think at their heart, these poems are really about what it means to feel utterly and completely alone. They force us to confront these huge questions about human relationships and the weight of the choices we make or don't make.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to some of the darkest parts of the human experience.
Exactly. They're not easy poems, but they're definitely powerful ones.
Powerful, that's the word. So as we wrap up here, I think we have to go back to that bridge. If it were you standing there, knowing it's the same on the other side, what would you do? Stay or go? Something to think about.